Today on the Stay at Home Chef, I'm showing you how to make chocolate chip cookie dough ice cream sandwiches. This is a fun and delicious summer treat. It does take some time to make it, but ultimately, it's still a pretty easy recipe. To start, you'll need 1 cup of melted butter, and I'm using salted butter, but you can use unsalted as well. There's a couple of lumps in there, but I'm not worried. A quick whisk will melt them right in. Then we'll add in 1 cup of brown sugar and half a cup of white granulated sugar, and we'll whisk this in with the melted butter. Then once that's mixed in, we'll whisk in 1/4 cup of milk and 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract. Then we'll switch away from our whisk and grab a rubber spatula and sprinkle in 1/2 teaspoon of salt and 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour, and you want to stir that in. Now, if you're worried about consuming raw flour, you can always toast it first. You can just sprinkle it out onto a baking sheet and toast it in a 350-degree oven for about 10 to 15 minutes, or you can put it in a little skillet and heat it for about 5 minutes over medium-high heat. Last, we'll pour in about 2 cups of mini chocolate chips and fold them into our wet, moist cookie dough. Then we're gonna dump this dough out onto a baking sheet that I've lined with parchment paper. So you wanna get it all out into little clumps, little mounds of the dough, and then we're gonna spread this out and squish it out until it's about 1/4 inch thick. Now it helps if once you have the initial squish done, you can put on another piece of parchment paper and then use either another baking sheet or like a cutting board to help squish it down flat so that it's an even thickness. Now, of course, this is going to be like the bread part of the ice cream sandwich, so you want to make sure it's nice and thin because you'll have one on top and one on bottom. And then I like to kind of square it off so that you can end up with nice, clean lines for your ice cream sandwiches. Then you'll want to pop this into the freezer until it's frozen solid, which will take about 1 hour. Now, just before you pull out the cookie dough to assemble your ice cream sandwiches, you'll want to pull out 3 quarts of ice cream. You want to let it sit on the counter for about 10 to 15 minutes to soften up and make it easier to work with. And you can see that I am using cookie dough instead of plain vanilla. Keeps things a little more fun. So now that we have this solid brick of cookie dough, we want to cut it right in half so that we can have a bottom piece and a top piece. So I'm going to eyeball this here and then start cutting in. And yes, it is a little hard to cut. And I'm going to check my work here and oh, look, it's actually pretty even. So we'll set one of the halves aside for our top piece and grab our ice cream and start scooping it on. I want to squish it around here and get a nice even layer so we can slide our top on. Then we'll place that final layer of cookie dough on top and squish it down. You can kind of flatten out the sides and fill in any gaps. Then I'm going to return this to the freezer for 4 hours until it's solid. Now once the ice cream has firmed up, you can transfer it to a cutting board and then cut it into individual servings. And just be slow, and it should cut right through if you use a sharp knife. Just like this. Super fun and perfect for summer. Thanks for watching. You can find the full written recipe in the video description. Be sure to subscribe, like, and follow, and check out the rest of my videos where you can find hundreds of restaurant quality recipes you can easily make at home. See you later.